Hello, in this video I'd like to show you the seamless link between Autodesk Revit and GRAITEC Advance Design, our structural analysis platform, and with the help of the GRAITEC Power Pack inside of Revit, which we have here. As you can see, here I am inside of Revit, and we have a concrete structure. Currently this concrete structure has no reinforcement, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to take this out to Advanced Design, do a structural analysis on it, calculate the theoretical reinforcement, and then actually use our Power Pack design tools to actually design the reinforcement based on the analytical results that we get from Advanced Design. As well as having all the tools in the Power Pack for actually just detailing and drawing our rebar, obviously here we have the design. This is where we're going to use them analytical results, but we also have the whole set of the Power Pack tools. So there's a lot of useful tools just within the native Power Pack for Revit that we can use in this whole process. So at the moment, this actual model, we already have an analytical model created in here. Okay, so this model does have an analytical model. However, as you may be aware, as of Revit 2023, Autodesk changed the way in which the analytical model was created, and if you want to create the analytical model now, they recommend that we come into here, into Analyze, and we use the analytical automation. But the problem we have here is this is actually utilizing Dynamo scripts. It's a little bit clunky, it's quite slow. So what we've actually got in Power Pack is we actually have our own tool. In fact, if I just nip over here, I've actually got another version of this file open, and as you can see, there is no analytical model in here. If I go to the 3D view, you see it's the same model, but there's no analytical model in here. So what we can do is, if I go to my Power Pack and we go here to the create, we've got to create, so this is where we can create a model after we've created the physical, or we can use automate. Now if we automate the analytical model and we enable this function, as we create new structural elements, it will automatically generate the analytical model as we're creating it, just as it used to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on create analytical model just to show you just how fast this is. So it'll launch the tool. Once the tool is launched, it just asks me to select the elements I want. So if I was to do this with the Revit Dynamo tools, when I click go, it probably takes about 2 or 3 minutes. If I just do this, there we go, and that's done. Yep. If I now go to the analytical model, we have now got a color-coded analytical model. This is a new feature within 2025, but we've had this tool available since 2023. So now we've got it to color-code it as it used to do in the olden days, you know, the way that Revit would actually color-code things to identify what element was what. Let's just close that model down so we don't get mixed up. So here we have our model that we want to analyze. We've got some load conditions in here, some dead loads, some live loads. It's up to you if you load it in here or if you load the model within Advanced Design. We can do both. Okay. One of the things that we can do is to get this across now to Advanced Design is we have got the BIM Connect side of things. So BIM Connect is our set of tools which will allow us to maneuver files in and out of Revit. There's 2 buttons in here. There's the Advanced Design. This will take us straight to Advanced Design. So if you're the person that's got Advanced Design on their computer and you're using Revit and you're going to be doing the analysis, we can do this and it will launch straight into Advanced Design, and that's what I'm going to do in a second. But imagine you're the design engineer, you've designed the structure, you're now sending it to someone else, to the structural engineer, using the analysis package. What we can do is we can use the tool here and we can choose export, and we can choose to export this. It's actually going to automatically launch Advanced Design, which is exactly the same as what this button does, but if I wanted to, I can say don't automatically, send it out, tell it where we want to save the file to, and then we can send what's called the GTCX file. So we have our own file format here at GRAITEC called GTCX, and it's a file format that we've developed to interoperate between all of our own internal products. So we could do it from there. We've also got the ability to take it out to other file formats as well. It's not just GRAITEC BIM. But as I say, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose Advanced Design. I'm going to take this model straight out now, into Advanced Design. So what it'll do is now it'll export all the elements. It'll ask me if I want to generate reports. Say no. And then this will now automatically, because I've got Advanced Design on my system, it will now automatically launch Advanced Design, and then will automatically now do the import. That's the most important thing. It's a case of it will launch Advanced Design and now it will do the import. First window that's going to pop up is a window which we can tell it not to, but it's going to say if you connect it to the internet, do you want to check for a new version? Okay. I could say yes. Well, I can when I've done. Excuse me, once I've closed this one. So I've got a material it's not sure about, so we'll just assign that. There are some empty levels. So I've also got some levels within my Revit model that have not got any structural elements associated, to just make it easy. Don't want to delete it yet. Here we go. I can click yes. On this one now, it'll come up and says there's no updates available. I've actually got the latest version. We've just launched the 2025 version. Although everything I'm showing you is correct for 24 and 23 as well. So I could give a project a name. I can tell it what sort of structure. Is it a truss structure? No, it's a rigid structure, so I can just tell it what type of structure it is. Okay. And a little tooltip pops up as well. So here we now have the model. So this has come across from the GTX file format. Okay. Although the footings aren't actually showing, we can actually see that they're there. This is the same for the wall. We can actually see that we've got the footings in there. So the footings are there and they will be calculated. So now we're in here, we can actually see any loads that have come across from Revit. So we've got a dead load and a live load that have come across. We've got some 15 combination loads. These are standard inside of here. However, if I just launch this window, you'll notice that we've got no combinations for concrete, steel or timber. So we do need to have some combinations for concrete. If we don't, it's not going to be able to calculate the theoretical reinforcement. So I can come into here. What I can do is I can go to the simplified combinations. Just before I do that, it will moan at me because I've got a project open, but if I came into configuration, it's just telling me it's in read only. So we can actually then come in and we can actually set up all of our codes and standards that we wish to use in here. Okay. Normally that has defaulted to the United Kingdom because that's where I'm based, so it detected when I installed it where it needed to set the region up. So let's go back to our home. Let's go back into here. So what you'll notice is, as I say, these are in here. What I can do is I can just set up some simplified combinations to standard. Yeah, I can choose which ones I want to choose. Set up as. All I need to do is go generate. Yes, we'll rename them. It's added a few more combinations, and we now have concrete combinations as well. So I can now click OK. So I'm now ready. I might want to set up some other combinations in here, but for the time being, just for the speed of this, what I now want to do is I want to now analyze this model. So go to Analyze. I can go to Analyze Model. It will fetch my Analyze tab up, and I can tell it what I want to do. Now we'll just start out with the FE calculations to start with, and then I'll come in and I'll rerun them again with the RC design as well. So I can click OK. This will now generate a mesh model out of that physical model that we could see. So it's going to check the model, it's going to verify the model. So it'll run the mesh. There's our mesh. And now it'll start with the calculations. And we can see all the results coming down at the bottom. Okay, there we go. So our calculations have now finished. We can actually now we can actually now look at the displacements. It'll generate the displacements in here now. Just give it a second. There we go. Obviously it'll be quite exaggerated so you can actually see where the points are. I can already see straight away that maybe putting a beam structure under these slabs might be a good idea, but you know, that's what we can do when we're generating, and we can see what's going on now, and we can start to then look at how we can redesign that. Interestingly enough, if we added the beams in here, when we synchronize it back to Revit, we can actually get it to create the geometry within Revit. So it works both ways. You know, anything we create in here now, when we synchronize back, if we made any changes, we can actually update them changes in there as well. Okay. Let's just go back in. You know, I can select the displacements. I could look at the forces. So I might want to check when it lets me into the drop down. It's calculated in the background. There we go. And then it will generate a view, and again it will give us the information that we want to see on here, and where our vertical stresses are, so we can see all that. I'm just going to go back into Analyze, and this time I'm going to redo the analysis, but I'm now going to redo it from scratch. I'm going to include the RC design. What you'll notice when I click RC, it's grayed these out, but you'll notice there's a tick in the background. It's basically because if you want the FE calculations, it has to do all the others. If you want them to do RC, it still has to do all that in the background. Okay, so we'll get that going. It's done the check. It's reinitializing it all, so this will basically redo what we've just done. We'll probably get a few errors on this one, mainly because, you know, I know these things that I need to do to this building first. So run the mesh. There's the finished meshing. It'll then rerun the FE, and we can see it doing all the FE calculations. Then once it's done this, we'll probably see the error tab automatically open, because it's going to start to find some of them are more warnings. So as you can see, these are warnings, so none of them are critical, none of them are going to stop this process running. So they're just warnings that it's going to give me on the elements that it's finding. Okay, that looks like it's almost finished. You can see the green bar here at the bottom, just giving us the progress. There we go. So the calculations have now finished. Go to the information, reinforce a concrete design as finished. Okay. And again, if I wanted to, we could start to look at the results from the concrete calculations as well. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to export the results here. So what I can do is I go to BIM. Here's our GRAITEC BIM. So we're going to use the same process. We do have other ways of exporting as well. I can now go here. I'm now going to export. Notice the synchronization tool. When I go back to Revit, I'll use the synchronization tool, and then I could use it again in here. So what you can do is you can actually link Advanced Design and Revit, so that it makes it a lot quicker. In this case, let's just go export, and let's export the results that we have in here. Okay, so I'll just let's go to where this project is, which is in this video folder, and we'll call it results. Okay, so we can see now what it's actually doing on the export. We know it's exporting the materials, it's cross sections. And let's export that out. Okay, all the linear, the planar elements will get exported. Create the GTC file, successful. Okay, right, so now what we can do is we can go back here into Revit. Now one thing I'm just going to show you is within Revit we have, if you've used other analysis packages like say Robot, we have the results manager, and we are going to utilize the results manager as well. Okay, so I'm going to close that, and I'm going to now go back to our Power Pack, to our BIM Connect, and I'm now going to use the synchronization tool. Okay, so I'm now going to synchronize the results so that we understand where the exports and imports are going from. So it's going to first of all export the elements from here, so that then we can now link the results in and it understands. Yeah, so here we have notice I've got the FEM results not available, no reinforcement. So what I'll do is let's just go open. Here's the results file that we created. This will now load them results in, and hopefully we get a tick box in both our FEM and our reinforcement boxes, so that we then know that we actually have the results from that import. And here we go. So we've now got the results. The first thing I need to do is I need to apply these results. Some things have been modified, okay, potentially. Some things have stayed the same. Obviously, most of them have been modified because we've actually changed the linear results within them elements. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So if I now hit apply, yep, we'll apply the changes. Don't want a synchronization report. No, I won't do that this time. I might get some information about any combinations that already exist, which is fine. So we'll close that. We'll now start to finish applying the changes where it needs to. There's another process of synchronization, just synchronizing the changes. Okay, so that's finished. I will click OK. And one thing I just want to show you is if I just go to the 3D model, and we can now start to see I need to apply some more changes. But just before we do that, if I go to Power Pack Design, we do have a tool here for loads and combinations, and also to import the results. Now if I just go, let me select this column. Let's go to the load and combinations. If we go to the internal efforts, you notice in here that there are no values. So because of this, there's no way we can calculate the reinforcement because there's no loads. However, we have got all that information from the results that we've loaded in. So one of the things I can do actually load in the impact analysis, if you import the analysis results. If I just go back to the Autodesk tools and we just go to Analyze, if I go to the results manager, you'll see that I actually have the results that have been loaded in. And you can see they've come from Advanced Design, and these are the results that contain the information I need. So what I can do is go back to PowerPack detailing. Let's go to import the analysis results. And what you'll see here is it's got both of them. So let's import all the results that we've actually got in, both the static and the required reinforcement. It's going to tell me it's going to make some changes. That's fine. And we can now import them results. If I now go back to my loads and combinations, still with the same column selected, and I go back to my internal efforts, we have now got all them values propagated based on the results that have come back from Advanced Design and our analysis. I can click OK on that. And what I could then do, that's not just loaded it in for the selected object, by the way. When I've clicked load, it's loaded all the elements. Now when we export from Advanced Design, you do actually have the option, if for instance, you know, when I was in Advanced Design, I just did the export for the BIM results. If I'd have had objects selected, it will actually give me an option to say, do you just want to export the results for the selected elements? So it might be that it's a very big model, we're not interested in all the results that we've generated, so we can actually filter them by selecting the elements we want to export within Advanced Design. But if I was to say select all of these columns at the same time, and I go now into here, I now have a calculate tool in here. So this will perform a structural analysis of the considered elements for a project, and it will then start to look at using the results to actually now start to generate the reinforcement based on the results. And hopefully when this pops up, or this bottom column as well, but hopefully when this is popped up, it should say, once we ignore that, it will give us a window to say if it's been successful, and as you can see, it's calculated okay. We have a nice green tick. If I click on the green tick, it will give me some feedback and some information on what's actually achieved. Now I can go to the errors and warnings, and obviously we don't have any. If there was an error, we can come into here and we could start to see what was causing that. We can also generate reports in here. So this will generate a 14-page structural report based on that column of calculations now as generated. Just to give you an example of what we might get when we do see a warning. If I was to select this footing, and let's run the calculate on this footing, it will generate the reinforcement based on the analysis results. However, we will get a warning on this one. So it's calculated, but it's calculated with errors. So what we can do is we can click on this calculation result, and this will now start to give us some information about why. Okay, and it's to do with a settlement, and it's basically the main warning here is that we haven't specified the situation, so the soil hasn't been calculated, so we don't actually know what this is actually sitting on. We can actually put that data either in here into Revit, into the PowerPack design tools, or we could do that within Advanced Design. And you'll actually see just over here we do actually have a sort database that we can set up. So that is the workflow from taking our concrete design here in Revit, take it to Advanced Design, quickly do the analysis. Obviously you could do it add more loads where they're missing, etc. And then pull them results back and then utilize our analytical results to generate our rebar cages.